The Transformers franchise has been going strong since the first cartoon aired in 1984. Hi, my name is Tia. I'm your content manager for Geek Vibes Nation. And while the movies are often hit or miss, the cartoons usually always deliver. Lucky for us fans, there's been about 25 animated series, so there's a lot to choose from. As a fan myself, I think it's about time I rank the top 10 Transformers series. As always, these lists are my personal opinion and taste, and with one being the lowest and 10 being the highest. So let's get into this. Number one, Prime Wars. Oftentimes, when people are ranking all of the Transformers series, they'll put Prime Wars as the worst of the worst. So, having this web series on a list about the best Transformers shows might get a lot of people scratching their heads. I really wanted to dislike this show, but a part of me really likes it. Sure, the animation isn't great, the way everyone's mouths move when talking isn't great, and there's a lot of really valid reasons why this show is forgettable. However, Megatron is just so damn funny in this, and they gave Overlord a southern accent. Pair that with seeing Metroplex and Fortress Maximus, and I was a happy girl. Number two, Netflix's War for Cybertron. The Netflix Transformers series also gets a lot of hate, and considering a lot of the same people from Prime Wars worked on this show, you can see why a lot of criticism overlaps for both. However, I was a fan of the animation style. I really liked Megatron in this, and it's one of my favorite showings of Alita 1 and Optimus's relationship. People criticize the way the characters talk and the fact that everyone questions Optimus in it, but I like that. I like that not everyone followed Optimus blindly. He was new in his leadership role and unsure of himself. I like the background of him and Megatron, and I thought it was a decent arc. The second season was okay, but the third season incorporated the characters from Beast Wars, and I really liked how everything tied up in the end. Number three, Rescuebots. All Transformer shows are made for children, but Rescuebots is specifically made for toddlers. That being said, it's a cute show that doesn't concern itself really with the Autobot versus Decepticon war. It instead is about a local town and a team of Autobots who are just there to help out. While it is child oriented, it's a relaxing and cute show that knows what it's doing. The adventures are fun, the dialogue is well done, and I think that if you want to introduce your kid to a Transformers show, this might be a nice one to do it with. It takes place in the aligned continuity and is a nice addition to the world. Number four, Beast Wars. As someone who was born in 1990, Beast Wars was my introduction to Transformers. The fact that these characters could transform into creatures like dinosaurs was just so cool to me. Looking back at it, it's definitely hard to look at. The music is so incredibly 90s, but you know what? The stories hold up. Sure, the first few episodes are clunky, but Beast Wars and even Beast Machines were really innovative in what they set out to accomplish with these shows. What starts off as just the animal versions of G1 ends up being this incredibly deep and complex story about time travel, sacrifice, and the concept of life itself. Number five, the animated series. Now, let me just say this first and foremost. I have never watched the animated series. I have tried, and it's just not for me. But I knew that I could not make a Transformers list without putting the animated series down. I know that people love this show. Despite the animation style being unorthodox for the franchise, this was a lot of people's introduction to Transformers. It did a lot of things different from the usual Transformers lore, and it's definitely a product of the time. It feels like Teen Titans and other cartoons of that era. While I may not be a fan, I know people were really looking forward to the fourth season that never came. Number six, the Armada series. I just recently started watching Armada. When I first got back into the Transformers franchise in the early 2010s, my friend Brittany insisted I watch Armada. However, I never got into it at the time. As I got back into Transformers again in 2023, I wanted to consume everything that I had missed and then some. So I finally put Armada on. As someone who used to love anime, I love the anime style of Armada. And I love the differences in this show as well as the focus on the mini bots. While I wasn't the biggest fan of the show just giving random characters names that have nothing to do with the name that it actually belongs to, This Megatron has to be one of my favorites. On top of that, it gave us a Starscream arc that no show has done since. Number 7, G1. I mean, how can I have a Transformers top 10 without the first show ever? G1 started in 1984 essentially to sell toys, but who cares? I've gone back and rewatched the series, and while it is incredibly 80s, it's also incredibly enjoyable. Let me say it being incredibly 80s is not a bad thing, just like Beast Wars being incredibly 90s is also not a bad thing. The characters aren't particularly three-dimensional, and there's some concepts from the original show that were never used again, but it's fun. I really enjoyed hearing Peter Cullen in his younger days as Optimus and hearing Frank Welker as Megatron. It was truly a delight. Number 8, Earth Spark. Now, Earth Spark is the current Transformers show on TV, and it's a bit of a hot button topic. This show is definitely geared for kids and can spend too much time on things that don't really work. Most of the new Transformers they've introduced don't work, and I'm just not a fan of the concept of these two human children being connected to the Earth-born Cybertronians, which are called Terrans. But when the show actually focuses on its plot and its legacy characters, it's so good. The scenes between Bumblebee and Breakdown are great. The show is essentially taking Megatron's arc from the comics and doing their own spin on it. And the 4-part season 1 ending was so damn good, I almost couldn't believe that they were able to pull it off. The show is giving us a complex look into Starscream and Megatron's past, and I think this may be one of my favorite Soundwave designs. I just don't need any episodes next seasons that are focused on the cow. Just focus on the established characters, and I think we'll be good. Number 9, Cyberverse. This is another show that was geared towards kids. Season 1 and 2 can be quite kiddish and unserious. The animation style definitely takes getting used to. However, there's a lot to like. First of all, there's virtually no humans in the show, and this is one of my favorite Optimus Primes. The show focuses a lot on Bumblebee and Windblade, but they're not standouts. Characters like Soundwave and Shadow Striker really steal the show. And then suddenly the show has some really great arcs in season 2 and season 3. It gets dark, really dark. Like you almost ask yourself where this came from. The arc with Cheetor and Shockwave in season 2 is really good. And I love introducing characters like Dead End and Astro Train in season 3. Cyberverse is definitely one of my favorite Transformers shows. And side note, I got to speak with Travis Arts, who voiced Hot Rod, and Ryan Andes, who voiced Grimlock and Shockwave. I'll link them down below. Number 10, Transformers Prime. I mean, of course, it's Transformers Prime. The show that got me back into Transformers, this is just perfect. I'm sorry, I have nothing bad to say about this show. The animation is great and it still holds up. The voice acting, the more mature tones, even the humans are great. Seriously, we have Peter Cullen and Frank Welker back. This show took some chances with design changes, like with RC, Starscream, and Soundwave, but they're my favorite versions of all 3 characters. I love what they did with Bumblebee. And after rewatching, I actually really love Miko and Bulkhead's relationship. Knockout was honestly the best character of the show. If I had to criticize the show at all, it's just I wish season 3 was longer. I wish Breakdown didn't die, and I wanted more Ultra Magnus. But seriously, this is the best Megatron. This is the best everything. I hold Transformers Prime in such high regards, and I can't help but compare everything to it. I wasn't necessarily in love with what the Transformers Prime movie did afterward, but it's still a perfect show from start to finish. I will say, as a side note, as much as I love the aligned continuity, I really couldn't stomach Robots in Disguise, the 2015 version. I just have to go off on a tangent about this at the moment because I recently tried to watch it and I couldn't even get through episode 1. Why they wouldn't keep the first animation for the show is its first sin, and God, it's just such a drop in quality. I sometimes really just think that this wasn't even attached to Transformers Prime. We already really didn't need that final movie that came after season 3, and we especially didn't need Robots in Disguise. I feel that if they kept the actual animation style and did a lot of different changes. Actually, let me stop myself. There really aren't any redeeming qualities. I would say probably the only thing is that I do know that Soundwave comes back at some point. Although again, I don't really like the design. There's just a lot. And I really feel as if it would have been nice if we would have gotten the same animation style as yeah, as Transformers Prime. You can watch reviews by channels like Emperor Kumquat because they honestly do a lot better of a job than I am right now because I've never even watched the show. I remember after watching Transformers Prime, seeing the announcement that there was a sequel series coming out and being excited for it, and I just never could get into it. Other than that, the aligned continuity is a great continuity with the video games, some awesome books, and obviously Transformers Prime and even the Rescuebots. This has honestly been, in my opinion, my favorite world in the Transformers franchise. What they did between Optimus and Megatron, almost essentially making them the Transformers version of Professor X and Magneto, is honestly my favorite. On another side note, and this is a bit of an honorable mention, the IDW More Than Meets the Eye comic is probably the best piece of Transformers storytelling. I swear there's only like two aspects of that world that I dislike, but I need to see IDW's version of Fortress Maximus in an animated series one day. We got Whirl and Cyberverse, so I need Fort Max popping up somewhere. I mean, not as a Titan, just a really big bot. But as I said, Earthspark is the current is the current show right now. And while it definitely has a lot of kiddish aspects, and as I said, I really don't think that the children work in it. I think it's a pretty good show. I like the animation style. And I actually really like people like, say, Alan Tudyk voicing Optimus Prime. I think that's a good choice. And Rory McCann, who played the Hound in Game of Thrones, voices Megatron. And this Megatron is kind of what they did in the IDW comics with Megatron joining the Autobots. It's kind of cool. Again, there's some really great episodes in the show when they focus more on Soundwave, the way that they're introducing Starscream. And as I said, that season one finale was really good. It's just when they focus more on the kids and the Terrans, it seems to drop in quality. The Terrans aren't overly likable except for the character Twitch, and Nightshade is okay. Other than that, the other three aren't really that great. The kids aren't that great. I do like Dottie, and her husband Alex's obsession with Bumblebee is cute at times, but I really hope that they focus more on their legacy characters in season two, and then we get some really great episodes. At least season one was pretty long, so that's good because honestly, the fact that season three of Transformers Prime was only 13 episodes makes me want to cry. But that's my top 10 of Transformers. Again, I know that there were a few shows on there that people are probably going to scratch their heads and say, how could you even put them in there? And maybe I've missed a few along the way. I feel like I've watched a pretty good amount of Transformer shows, but I know that I'm missing them. So if there's any that were left off on this list, please suggest it to me because I'm always down to watch more Transformers. In the meantime, this is Tia, your content manager for Geek Vibes Nation. Please give us a like and a subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We have some really awesome stuff going on this channel. Again, I will link the two interviews that I had done previously down below. Travis Arts and Ryan Andes are honestly two great guys, and I thought that they did a phenomenal job in Cyberverse. Thing about Cyberverse is that it didn't really have a whole lot of notable voice actors. A lot of them are local to the New York area. And I did read that shows like Cyberverse and even War for Cybertron on Netflix got a little flack for not having people who are more notable on their shows. But I like the fact that they gave people who aren't as notable chances. So please let me know what you think. And until next time, guys, bye.